Welcome to Botox Cowboys. Today, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome in our true OG Botox cowgirl, Leisa Krauss. Welcome, Leisa.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dargie. I am so excited for this. We have been trying to get our schedules together to do this, and I have to have you on Scalpel of Truth. And yeah, I'm so grateful that this lined up. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I've been excited and anticipating this for a while. So it gives me just so much joy to see you here. And for those of you who, don't know Leisa, and I suspect most of you do because she's amazing, she is an industry leading aesthetics consultant. And I've worked with Leisa, for the better part of a decade now. And she has a wealth of knowledge, a sound person, a kind soul, and I am just excited to be able to ask her some questions, and we can all sit back, have a good laugh, learn a whole bunch, and I'm just so excited, for everyone to get a little more exposure to the Bitchin Beautician herself.
Thank you.
Okay, now what I want to do is I obviously can just talk everyone's ear off, but for those for our listeners that are new to you, why don't you just give them a little plug for a little bit about you, a little bit about your background. I think it's really important that whether you're a patient or whether you're an industry expert, an injector, a clinic owner, whatever it is, your background is very distinct. And so I'd love for you to share that with everyone.
Of course, my pleasure. I have been in our glorious industry for about 30 years. My name is Leisa Krauss. Everyone knows me by the Bitchin Beautician, my Instagram handle. So sometimes people don't even know my name, but that is my name. And our industry is something that is in my blood. It's all I've ever wanted to do right out of the gate, out of high school. I went right into hairstyling and cosmetology. So learning about doing hair and learning about skin. And from there, I spent 4 years in salon. And so behind a salon chair doing hair, doing nails, doing makeup, facials, things like that. Then I decided to go into medical aesthetics. The hybrid of the med spa didn't exist back then. It was crazy. I met one of my girlfriends. She worked for Dr. David Will. He owned Midwest Laser Surgery Centers. There was 4 locations that he had: Saskatoon, Regina, Calgary, and Edmonton. He was an ENT, ears, nose, and throat specialist. And so otorhinolaryngologist was his title. And he started bringing lasers and laser medicine, laser cosmetics into Saskatchewan, and one of the first of 5 in Alberta. And that was back in, I believe he started 1988. I started with him 1998. And worked with him for 10 years. And so hands-on in clinic with patients for 10 years, and then moved through to a couple of other locations and started doing consulting kind of on the side of being in clinic. And so really at that time, consulting was more talking to people who were going to buy a laser or looking to get into this industry. So unofficially, I had started consulting way back, and then moved into helping develop programs to teach lasers at a couple of different locations here in Alberta. I love teaching in a sense, but the folks that we were teaching I remember I had students that would be like, I'm looking to work Tuesday and Thursday, and I would like $40 an hour, and I would like all this stuff. And I was like,
Yeah,
me too. Yeah, same. And so it was a little bit of the entitlement side of our industry, and I got to see that. And then I thought, you know what? I miss being hands-on with patients. So I went back and spent quite a few years in dermatology. And then in 2013, I started Vanity Empire Consulting, which is what I am doing now full time and have been for a few years now. And I love it. So helping build empires in our industry and helping build brands with folks and teaching them about retail rockstar workshops and closing on consults and all the different industry trends. And so long-winded, it's been a long 30 years. So trying to pack that in. So now it's just, I don't do hands-on with patients anymore. But I do work very closely with clinics, do some practice direction for a couple of clinics.
including my clinic.
Right?
Exactly,
Amen.
exactly. And, Lisa's been modest here. She's had so much experience and she's even worked on the pharma side as well, which is actually how I came across you. And it just adds to the wealth of knowledge because you understand the back end, you understand front facing businesses, what they need. And so you have I would say, a read on the industry that is unique. And you've even, worked with private equity groups, and there's really not a person that has a better read, in my opinion, of the cosmetics or an aesthetics landscape. So, thank you for the work that you do for us, for me, and hence why I'm just tickled silly that you're taking the time to chat with me today. Now, I wanted to.
Of
I was
course.
formulating my list of questions for you, and there's so much I'd like to tap into, but I kind of wanted to just hit you with a couple easy, open-ended questions. So, in your work guiding people who are trying to grow their own empire, their own practice, what are just some key essentials for the person to be successful? I'll get into what they need from you in terms of industry knowledge and direction to go, but what are just some characteristics of these people that are going to be successful in the field of medical aesthetics?
Absolutely. Excellent question. I think because of our industry exploding, there's a lot of attraction to medical aesthetics. And I think one of the key fundamental things that you need is medical aesthetics has to be in your blood. So getting into it for money is definitely the wrong reason. So you have to have a passion for, if you're a woman in this industry, getting like your own skin, having a passion for your own skin. For myself, it's making sure I look the part, doing my hair and makeup every day and loving that. Being someone who is selling beauty, you got to look the part. And then you got to be able to help people and help with their self-confidence. So you have to believe in what you do. I've come across the last few years where, people will come to me for consulting and I say, what do you love about this industry? Well, I don't actually love like cosmetics, but I thought, I could get into it. I could make a lot of money. I don't personally get injections myself. And it's just like, oh my gosh. So, I mean, even as a great business consultant, I can't help that person be successful. I think one of the main attributes is you've got to have a passion for this and an interest in building confidence for people. And it's very different than the hospital. And obviously you're the perfect person to speak to that.
You've hit, I mean, this is unscripted, everyone, just so you know. So she's hit the thing that I think is actually, I couldn't agree with you more, is the authenticity piece. People that get into it for money will not succeed. And success, that's kind of an ambiguous term because maybe some people like to dabble, maybe some people want to build a multi-million-dollar business. There's, success is arbitrary. However, I have this talk, and as you know, I've trained thousands of people across the country, and I was having this talk literally this past weekend because I encourage all of our injectors to get the treatments themselves. They have to get it, or else truthfully, there is a correlation between willingness to get these treatments and ability to succeed. And it is astonishing to me how many people balk at it and they say, I would never get these treatments, but yet they're going into this thinking that they'll somehow succeed. How do you reconcile that? And I don't think you can.
No, in my experience, those are the folks that are scrambling. They are the ones that are looking for the life raft because they get into it. And back in the day, you could make a lot of money. We were not nearly as saturated as our industry is now. And so now there's a med spa on every street corner. Everybody's getting into this, which is lovely. But also that means everything changes. The game changes. There's a lot more barrier to entry because you need to have X amount of dollars if you want to compete with what's already successful in this space. So you can't get into it just to dip a toe in the fun pool of aesthetics. You got to be in it to win it. You have to be able to navigate and build with what's already built around you. You're coming into a space that has been perfected by many for years before you. So you got to come in. It's always going to be more time than you thought, more money than you thought. It is so much more. So that's where if it's not in your veins, it gets old real fucking quick. Like the sleepless nights, and you can speak to this because you have the passion for teaching, and that's why you've done so incredibly well, gold standard for teaching across Canada. And I think that's because you're passionate about it. and teaching people the right way to do things and ethics, as well as just injectables. That's something that I have huge respect for you for, is you have always stayed very true to ethics. You don't sell out. You're like, no, I'm doing the right thing, whether there's money in it or not. And I think that's what you have to have in this industry in order to be successful.
No, thanks. I agree. So, I mean, those are some key things for people that are looking to be successful in this. And I would agree. I think a belief in what you do, I think a willingness to help others, and authenticity. And I share my experience because at the start, I was a little reluctant to get these treatments myself. And then I asked myself, well, what are you doing? You expect to sell these treatments and, talk to people and connect with them about ways to look and feel their best. And immediately I became a better injector for it. And despite being able to share this story with people, so many people are very reluctant. And I think that will be a hindrance to their success in the business. So thanks for sharing that. Now, maybe in broad strokes, as you do speaking seminars across North America, you're obviously doing consulting work for lots of successful clinics, many of which I am well aware of. What would you say right now is, in this highly competitive aesthetic space, an untapped market for clinic owners?
I think that there needs to be a massive focus on the male patient. Male patients are, in my experience, absolutely fucking amazing because they are loyal. You'll never have, a guy get in your chair and say, well, this is the sixth consult I've had. I've been looking for it. They don't do that. They come in, they are loyal. They book their appointments. They keep their appointments. Whatever, in my experience, whenever I have said, listen, sir, this is what I believe that you need. Is going to do the best job for the at-home skincare that you need. It's literally 3 steps. This is going to help give you better results or optimize or maintain the results that you're spending your money in clinic on me fixing your rosacea, your red vessels around your nose, your laser hair removal, your anything, your injectables. And so I think that there is a massive opportunity. And what we've done really well is we've made the girlfriends, wives, sisters, mothers of all of these men look amazing for the last couple of, 3 decades. And so when you have that much length of time and your partner or your spouse, your whatever, everyone's looking younger, men also want to look really good. It's not something, that's looked at now as a vanity metric. It's more of you're coming in and you're looking to look better, feel good. You exercise for your heart. You eat right. You're looking to have your face and body. Also, you get one. So men are starting to invest more. They make incredible patients and they keep up with, the maintenance, which is really important for in clinic recurring revenue from a business standpoint, but also to get great before and afters, to have guys feeling amazing. And a lot of reasons that they'll come in. It's, maybe newly single. That's usually what we hear is newly single when you're in clinic or when I was in clinic previously. But now it's just, I've started a workout regime. I've lost this amount of weight. Obviously, we look at the weight loss space in our industry. It's massive. And so you have to look at volume loss. And just because you're a man versus a woman, whatever, you have a face. It's a face, right? And so you want it to look good. So I think men, focus on men and your marketing and everything, really a huge opportunity.
I agree. And hence the name of this podcast, Botox Cowboys. Just like Tyler and I, we were 2 country kids from Alberta who would have never thought about getting a cosmetic treatment. And, now look where we are. And so I think, there are some barriers to obviously getting men in. I think education's one. What do you think is, give me maybe I'll just say this. I see some people make a little attempt and they call it get Botox. And it gives me a little cringe factor because I'm like, as a guy, I'm like, that's really not going to get a guy in the chair. What have you seen as a successful way to, get male clients? And as you said, they are, in fact, great clients. They're consistent. They don't miss appointments, in broad strokes. Guys are very appreciative because they typically don't necessarily have as high expectations as some of the female clients. And so the men that do come in, they're very gracious and they're a growing part of my business. But what would you say is a barrier to getting more guys into your average clinic?
I think when you are going to be male focused with your marketing, I think it is showing gentlemen of all different backgrounds, cultures, ages, everything in your marketing. So when you do a reel and you're doing injectables, you're doing PRP, you're doing laser hair removal, having more of a male presence in your social media, on your website, where I have clinics, and we used to do it back in the day, have a men's menu, things that will appeal to, and men's packages, like if you are doing, PRP hair restoration, and then you're going to do some laser hair removal. So we want to add hair here. We want to subtract hair here. We're going to sculpt this. We're going to, and having that in your marketing, because if you have nothing but females in your marketing, it's going to be, we recognize that in ourselves. Same as if you've got a certain demographic or culture that you're trying to bring in, right? That's what your marketing is for, is if you have marketing of all different kinds that people can see, oh, they specialize in this. Oh, they have a lot of guys that go there. Oh, this is a different guy this time. I mean, injectors, ladies working in clinics, get your brothers, your dads, your uncles, everybody, your grandfathers, get people in and start transforming your marketing to attract those people that you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And, maybe throwing a picture of a pretty boy up on your social media is not the way to do it either. We are trying to appeal to people, all of which want to look and feel their best. And so I couldn't agree with you more. It seems obvious, but the surprising thing is not that obvious to many of the clinics out there. If turn some of your attention to men. The drug companies certainly focus on, hey, you want to, find your 45-year-old female with money. And realistically, I think there's lots of other great untapped potential. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. So teaching is my passion, and cutting through a lot of bullshit in the industry is important to me. And with the background as an emergency medicine physician, it was really important to me to do things that are evidence-based, thoughtful, and were results driven. I go to conferences all around the world, and the inconsistency in teaching is shocking. You can have someone who's incredibly gifted and talented get up on stage and then be followed up by somebody who does something dangerous, ridiculous, saying complete mistruths to a huge audience. In the practice consulting world, what's a piece of advice that you see that's given? And maybe I'll give you even an example. Is I hear this a lot, is people say that you can only treat lips with a needle technique versus a cannula. This is just not the case. And there's a number of people that make this claim largely because they don't know how to use a cannula. And so they badmouth one treatment to steer people towards another. And, or for instance, one industry expert right now says sculpture is only to be used on bone. This is literally the opposite of reality. Sculpture is not to be used on bone. Sculpture is designed to be subdermal in the subcutaneous tissue to affect fibroblasts in the dermis. So we're talking about night and day, someone on a podium saying something that is just nonsense. Give me an example in the practice consulting world of something that just drives you crazy when you hear it.
I think, we've been referred to in this industry as the wild, wild west for a long time. And I think it's getting wilder by the minute that we have got a massive issue that we are putting people on podium. We are going after the insta-famous injectors, and we are starting to let like the celebrity status of these folks get on to, because you've got good marketing, because you've, not necessarily because you've got the right education or you're saying the right things or you're being safe. And so I am shocked at who gets to go up on a stage these days at conferences that I go to. And for the consulting world, it blows my mind. For me, I'm a judgy bitch. We know this. I would never hire a consultant that is not worked in a clinic. To me, I just can't, because I know all of the things that I intimately learned for 20 years in clinic, working hands-on with patients in a dermatology practice, in cosmetic practices. I feel like business is certainly a component to it, but you've got people out there charging $2,500 for 2 hours to teach you how to do a consult. And some of these folks have not ever worked in a clinic and done a consult themselves. So for me, my first question is, how the fuck are you teaching me to do I get so passionate. Honestly, I'm going to jump off the deep end here, but
I
how
knew
are
you'd get
you?
fired up with this one.
You're like button pusher. And it is. It's like, how are you going to teach them? And for me, I just say, oh my gosh, amazing. I would, your shift starts Monday. I'd love for you to do a consult and close on it with all your theory that you have of this is how you do it. And a lot of these folks, they listen to podcasts and they learn. And this is what we do, is we educate on podcasts. And so they listen to all the podcasts, they go to conferences, they gain knowledge from being parrots in the industry. They don't have hands-on, and I'm not saying y'all need to work with me as a consultant. I'm saying when you vet a consultant, you want to make sure that they've walked the walk if they're going to talk the talk. And that doesn't mean somebody who sold skincare for years, who sold lasers for years. You get a bit of knowledge by doing that. But if you have not been in those shoes of in clinic and done, if somebody's going to teach me to do a consult, I want them to have at least done 10,000 of them successfully. So I get
I
pretty
totally
judgy on
agree.
that. Yeah.
And so I'm going to push you even a step further. So what's a piece of really bad advice that you've heard over your, let's say last 5 years in a consultant role? Just, it could be even simple. It could be something really, really simple that is just dumb.
Consultants that are having their pockets lined, which I think is fine if there's kickbacks in our industry. But when people come to me and say, well, this consultant said that I should get these 4 devices. And so I bought these 4 devices because the price is never going to be better. And this consultant said that this is the best on the market. And I'm like, oh, what clinic did they work in? Did they work with those lasers? How do they know they're the best out of all the lasers out there? Have they worked with more than one modality? Well, no. Well, oh, okay. And then now you're suffering because you can't make a go of it because you don't have any patients, but you've got 4 lasers. Like, it's bad business. It's bad business.
Yeah. So in that I've actually, this is maybe one that you'll have seen, is that in a world of misinformation, I would say that something that is preached by many consultants is that energy-based devices. So for those listening, that's going to be your lasers. So, this could be RF microneedling, this could be CO2 resurfacing, IPL, BBL, whatever, is that right now there is a bit of industry recession, and the sales narrative, because some of these companies are notoriously bad, they are cold calling physicians around the industry and saying, hey, you should buy one of these devices. It makes you hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in passive revenue. I'm going to say right now, that is absolutely bullshit. And so that, to me, that you've heard that would be something that I take real issue with, because, I'll get calls sometimes from family doctors who don't even know what Botox is. They never, treated a patient for anything to do with, appearance. And they're like, hey, I was told I could make 200K passive revenue, do nothing if I buy this $250,000 device. And that would be such a liability, and they would lose all $250,000.
It's almost criminal to what's happening in our industry around that, because gone are the days. And you could, and I know that they used to say this back in the day, and you could do so much better, but it's not like you just hang out your shingle and all of a sudden everybody's coming to you and you nailed it. They're going to go tits up before they ever get patients to cover that monthly payment. There's so much more to it than just, oh, I bought a laser and they're going to come see me now. There is so much around marketing. There's so much around the patient acquisition and what again, jumping into this, what everyone else has done, it's likely in the last 30 years been done already. And so I think it's really important for people coming in knowing that if they are going to offer something that's going to treat the skin, I like the 3 key pillars to skin health, where you're offering products, you're offering injectables like skincare products, injectables, and then maybe doing a handheld microneedling device or chemical peels, or you can ease into this industry without like the noose around your neck of a $250,000 laser treatment or laser purchase, right? There's ways to get into this that are smart.
100%. So here is the truth, the scalpel of truth. Uh, these machines do not sell themselves. They can be incredible tools to generate revenue in a practice if you have the patient population, if you know how to use them, if you know how to market them well. Hell yeah, these can be amazing. But for a person out there that is told, hey, buy this and this equals money, nope.
It's a bold-faced lie. It doesn't exist anymore. We're not living in that era. That ship has sailed. All the cliche sayings, like hard no.
Tell me a funny moment you had where it just gave you pause for thought in aesthetics. Maybe I'll give you a little bit of a taster here. So, as you know, I do some teaching around the world, and I actually went not to be the teacher, but to see how another well-known injector and teacher teaches. And so I went to Europe, and I won't say where because it'll probably bust this person out. But I was sitting there in this small group session, and this guy was talking about, how he's the best and, the safest, blah, blah, blah. And so this guy jabs a cannula. And for anyone wondering, a cannula is a long, blunt tip needle. So he had a 90 millimeter cannula. So this is a fairly long one. And he jams it in her forehead. And I'm not mincing my words here. I'm talking, these things are supposed to be inserted safely and intentionally. He jams this thing in this poor lady's forehead, and she starts bleeding down her nose. And so he just walks out of the room, I think, to go get gauze. Anyway, so this lady's looking left, looking right. She's starting to tear. She's getting blood in her face. And this cannula, she looked like a unicorn as this thing waved around, unheld in her forehead. And I was sitting there, and it was like an out of body experience. I was like, what is happening here? Is this real? And this is from somebody who's well respected. And so I'm like, this is the least safe, the worst technique, and the dumbest thing that I could possibly be seen in the moment. And this stuff happens fairly regularly. So I don't know. Do you have anything crazy where you've been sitting in the audience or watching somebody and you're like, what are you doing?
100%. And that is wild. Wild. So recently, so in the last, we'll say 3 years, so that I don't out this person too. So in the last 3 years, have been at a conference, sitting in a conference, and we know right now in our space, memberships, super popular, and obviously great for the patient experience, great for the patient's pocketbook. We actually end up selling 44% more annually. That's a repeat MD stat. Stats are everybody is trading loyalty for savings. So we're not in the discount era. That's how you go broke. So you're in the savings era. That's what we're in right now. And so right now, recurring revenue and memberships are the way to go. And I do a lot of speaking on this. I'd say 80% of what I do is building recurring revenue memberships for practices. You want to make them, there's a few different types. You want to make sure that you have the right type. There's so many things around memberships. So sitting in the audience, and this consultant, who is a respected consultant as far as I would say, has been doing this a very, very long time, and said that all she does is undo memberships. That's all. Memberships are not the way to go. But in fact, the talk was supposed to be about the new feature that the software had about memberships. And I was like, am I in that? Did I hear that right? I'm like, do the people that this individual is speaking for know that she's supposed to be talking about the great features about memberships instead of undoing memberships. It was a little bizarre to me. So that was a noodle scratcher, to say the least, where I'm like, oh my goodness, we are not all on the same page, that's for sure. But it's eye-opening, right? And you're kind of like, holy shit, what? What's happening? What's happening right now?
There are some just head scratchers. But I mean, I'm supposed you have these in all lines of work. Like when I was doing and I was doing high acuity medicine in the hospital in Winnipeg. We'd have someone come in and they were stabbed, and so you'd have to put in a chest tube, and police come in and you ask them, you're like, who did this to you? And they're like, I don't know. And you kind of look at them, and then overnight they just disappear AMA from the hospital, and then all of a sudden another guy comes in stabbed. And then the guy comes back, both of them needing chest tubes. And you're like, oh, you just got the Winnipeg handshake because he went out and stabbed the dude. It's like, I don't know. And then you go to the other guy and you're like, who did this to you? He's like, I don't know. And you're just like, there's just head scratching moments that were just like, really? Sorry, I know that's random, but anyways.
I love it.
Yeah, maybe back to aesthetics. Like I was in Europe and it was interesting. I went to a seminar at this is a world-renowned congress, and the narrator or the moderator and the injector on stage, they were doing a basic lip treatment. They started yelling at each other and cussing each other out, and they were tearing each other down in front of a very large and I'd say well-respected audience. And I don't know, I don't know if that stuff happens maybe to the extent that it does in aesthetics.
I think our industry is, and being in it for so long, I've seen so much change, so much, and now I sound like I'm 156 years old. I'm like back in my day, but really it's so crazy. The changes that you've seen over the years, I'm sure for yourself as well. It's crazy where this industry has gone, and there's so many advancements that are so wonderful and so great, but there's also like the ugly side of the beauty business that is really, in my opinion, reared its ugly head in the last, I would say even 5 years, has gotten, and I think it's because of saturation, jealousy, competition, all of those things kind of bring out sometimes the worst in folks. And then you got, people that have been doing it forever that are just over it and they're fresh out of fucks. I'd be falling into that group probably. But it's, you want to see the good in what we do for people and building the self-confidence and getting back to the core reason of why we're in this industry in the first place. And it brings it full circle to getting into this industry. If you're going to get into this industry, you've got to have it in your veins. You've got to be passionate about it because it's a grind. It is absolutely a grind. And there's the good, the bad, and the ugly, just like there is with any industry. But predominantly this one with the changes that I've seen. Would I do anything else? Probably not. I still love it. It's in my blood. I wouldn't know what else to do. But I think, things like this podcast and the information that's out there, you got to have truth tellers in this industry because there's a lot of, smoke blowers. So I think what I really appreciate is those who are standing up for the ethics in this industry, those who are truth tellers, those who are, here to support this industry and the new people getting in and the people that are graduating out of this industry. I think it's, if we can all just take a minute, right?
Yeah, I think that what you say is really important, is whether it's regards to memberships, which are a great retention tool, they prevent attrition of clients. I think that in general, you will always be successful. And this sounds so basic and cliche, is like create a win for everyone, right? So if you can provide a service and you can provide savings for a client, that generates some reciprocity where they're coming in and they are saying thank you by being loyal to you. They are paying you for your years of school, hard work, and your dedication. And you're creating a win for the business and the brand altogether. And if you can find a good balance in that, and I am a firm believer in this, because if you take, that creates imbalance. And I digress a little bit here. I get calls all the time on when injectors think they should get a clinic to pay them. And I've had some injectors say, well, could I ask for 90%? And I'm like, you could. And if they give it to you, that's going to be a short-lived experiment because you're going to find that imbalance very shortly. And so fair is an impossible term, but creating a win for everyone to succeed, it's just better for longevity, for success. And so being authentic, and to your point about, circling back to why memberships are in fact, important, is it is creating a win for everyone.
Yeah, 100%. If they're done right. And that's the key to membership. They have to be done right. You can't give away too much. That's why there's that balance, which I think is the biggest thing. Is people will put together cookie cutter memberships. And that's another thing I see is a consultant will say, oh, I've seen this membership. Or even like someone selling patient financing, someone selling skincare. They'll be like, oh, this is a good membership. It's doing really well for these people. And then that clinic goes and does that membership, but they didn't do the demographic research. They didn't look at the profit margins, because not everybody, let's be honest, not everybody gets the product at the same price or the cost of goods at the same prices and stuff like that. So there's a lot more that goes into these things, building revenue streams and strategies and different things for clinics. And that's where you gotta have a trust factor, and and that's why people phone you. And that's why people reach out to you and DM you, is because you'll tell them the truth and you'll say, this is what I think, and, continue to do your research. But if it was me, this is what I would do. And I think being authentic, coming from a place of high ethics and standards of what we are teaching, preaching in this industry, that's where it's at. Is you got to be authentic.
Absolutely. And something I always appreciated about you, Leisa. And so, to close it out here, what I would say is that if you are a practice owner, and, I would say this because I'm speaking from true experience myself, is that I made some mistakes early in my career, misjudgments on just where I just didn't have the knowledge. And I would have saved myself many headaches and financial costs, time, if I had got expert help. And so I would strongly recommend people in the industry check out Leisa, the Bitchin Beautician, follow her socials, follow her podcast. This is the Scalpel of Truth is one where you're going to get a laugh, you're going to get a rant on it, but you're going to get some authentic self from somebody who understands. And this is why, I work as a medical director for a small group of nurses, and we're signing them all up for your podcast, just because I think it's really important to learn. So I do appreciate you taking the time for me. And please, everyone, if you want a wealth of knowledge and somebody who is authentic, and Leisa is someone who's shown this over a great deal of time, please check her out.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for that plug and the shout out. And I am grateful for our friendship and relationship in this industry. There's people that come and go in the industry, and you are somebody that I absolutely trust and try and, again, promote and stay together as much as we can of, good people promote good people. And I think there's a really big shift happening in our industry, that advanced education and learning more and more and more and staying cutting edge. Gone are the days that you take a course once or you get advice once and you're good. So I think that goes both ways. So very much appreciate being on the podcast. And I so appreciate what you're doing for this industry. I love the regenerative mastery. I got to be a part of that. That is, again, you're delivering and keeping cutting edge. And that's why Botox course, gold standard in the industry. So glad to be here with you, legend.
I cannot wait to see you again soon. And I'll be listening to your next episode, Scalpel of Truth. Okay, have an amazing week, Leisa.
You too. Mwah. Lots of love.